Professor McEwen here, and what we're going to go over in this discussion is looking at the foreign policy in the 1920s. The question reads, although the United States did not join the League of Nations, they did not retreat from isolationism, but instead actively pursued foreign affairs that would advance American interests in the 1920s. And you're supposed to assess the validity of this argument. Now, it is generally thought that the United States basically retreated to isolationism, but that's not necessarily true. They just did not want, specifically the Congress, to be in a treaty in which they would lose their power to declare war, that foreign entities would say, okay, we're declaring war on this nation, and because we signed the treaty, we would have to go along. But there is evidence that will show how the United States really wasn't as isolated as originally thought. And these are in three parts, so you need to address each part. The first part has to deal with disarmament and peace conferences. And this is where you go to the Washington Naval Conferences of 1921, and there's a various numbers of treaties that you could write about. The 5-Power Treaty, the 4-Power Treaty, and the 9-Power China Treaty. The second part, which is equally important under disarmament and peace conferences, is you explain what happened and what was brought along the Kellogg-Briand Pact. The second part has to deal with business and diplomacy. And here's where the United States is looking to Latin America, but specifically Mexico. And that investors in the United States had feared when the Mexican government had changed in 1917, stating that they're going to take over all the natural resources that would come under the Mexican government, that they would lose their oil rights that were in Mexico. And however, the ambassador of Mexico, Dwight Merrill, in 1927 was able to make a peaceful resolution protecting U.S. interests. So the oil companies were able to keep their rights. President Coolidge also withdrew troops from places like Nicaragua and Haiti, and also from the Dominican Republic. And this increased the economic impact between 1919 through 1929. And then there was also the Middle East, in which the United States would get a foothold, and once again, oil production in the Middle East, where Great Britain seemed like to have a monopoly. And the last is the Ford-McCumber tariff, which would increase duties on foreign manufactured goods to 25%. Unfortunately, this would have a negative effect because the Europeans would respond, and the Europeans owed us money from World War I, which brings us to the third major point, war debts and reparations. And the United States had loaned out $10 billion to the Allies. And Coolidge and Harding, both presidents at the time, said, you, England and France, you need to pay all that money back. The problem was with the Ford-McCumber tariff, that made it very difficult. Britain and France also was depending on Germany to pay them back. And Germany would default and go bankrupt, which led France and Belgium to invade the German industrial center, which was the Ruhr Valley, saying, we're here to collect our debt. Enter Charles Dawes. He comes up with a plan, and you need to explain the purpose of the Dawes Plan, what was in the Dawes Plan, and how it worked. So once again, let's review. You're looking at three important things. That has to do with disarmament and peace conference, which include the Washington Conference and the Kellogg-Briand Pact, business and diplomacy as regards to Latin America, specifically Mexico, what Coolidge did, the Middle East, and the Ford-McCumber tariff, and then the war debts and reparations, specifically what Britain and France owed, how the McCumber tariff made it difficult, and the Dawes Plan. So that's what you need to cover. And as usual, you can get it to me before 4 p.m. on Thursday. I'll be more than happy to critique it, get back to you. Let's have a good week.